Hello and welcome to another episode of Property-Pxrn Stars, the premium property podcast. And today we're doing something slightly differently. Today is less of an interview episode, although it is an interview. It's more a case study on a fantastic result for a particularly premium property that we have been working on, and it's worth sharing that information with you now. And as a result of that, I've got two guests that are joining me today. One is Simon Cowie, the Managing Director of Buyer Design in Warwickshire and in Sutton Coldfield as well. And then the other guest who's joining me today is Alex Wilcocks from Burbeck Interiors. Are you the founder, CEO, bit of everything?
Managing Director, co-founder.
Okay, we'll take that. That sounds good. Okay, so Simon, if I can kick off with you then. So let's talk about the house, which is Gainsborough House. Talk about maybe where it is and how this property came to you and how the sellers found you as well, because I think that's quite interesting.
So Gainsborough House is in Sutton Coldfield in the Four Oaks estate, which is an extremely exclusive estate. It's well known around the area. There's a lot of incredibly wealthy homeowners around there, but also footballers and that kind of stuff. The properties are just beautiful, and it's all tree-lined streets and everything. The sellers came to me because they had bought Gainsborough House to be a multi-generational home. They started an extremely large renovation, but then decided that it wasn't going to be suitable for what they were looking for. So they then started looking for a slightly smaller property, and they came across our marketing of two different homes that we were selling. And so I invited them out, did showings with them at two homes, and after the second one, I asked them for their feedback and everything, and they said, look, we're going to put our search on hold. Our property isn't selling, and I knew of their property. They'd sent me the details before. Our property's not selling, so we're just going to hold it off the market. The market's not doing anything at the moment, and we'll come back to you in, whenever the market picks back up. Straight away, I was like, why don't we sell it?
I've got an idea.
I was like, hang on a minute. So I said, look, why don't we sell it? And yeah, it was one of those sort of funny moments. They were just like, oh, what would you do differently? And we've obviously discussed this, and it's like, well, you know what we do differently because we attracted you to our properties.
Yeah.
You saw both properties under different marketing strategies. And obviously I've shown you around two homes, shown you my knowledge of each property and how I present the homes and stuff. And we pretty much signed it up there and then, and it was done deal. So I literally hadn't even walked around the home and we'd signed the contract.
Stop it, really?
No.
I didn't know that.
I didn't even know the house. I genuinely didn't know
You'd
the
just
house.
seen it online?
Seen it online, knew the details of it,
Yeah.
and sent them all the paperwork and we signed it up.
Wow. But because they'd had a first-hand experience of what you do, they had the trust and confidence in you to instruct without even seeing that.
The only thing we did between signing it up was some market research on local property values, just to make sure that the property price was going to be, whether it was a realistic property price for that area.
Yeah, okay.
Because we had to agree that for the contract.
And so talking about that then, so the property was on the market with another agent before.
Yeah.
And it was on for how much with them?
5.5.
Okay, so on 5.5. And how long had they had it on the market for, do you know?
5 months. I think, I can't remember which way around. It was 3 months off market and 2 months on market.
Right.
In that time, they had done some showings, but hadn't actually received a solid offer.
Didn't they have whatever the opposite of a non-solid offer is? They had a non-solid offer of somewhere. Didn't you say, am I making this up? There's something about 5.3.
So they had a 5.3 offer, which didn't escalate to anything because there was no proof of funds. There was, the buyer was hard to get hold of. And so it was essentially a non-offer.
So it was on the market for 5.5. They instructed you, disinstruct the other agent. What did you put it on the market for?
Offers over 5.
Offers over 5. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so let's talk about what happens from that point onwards then in terms of your marketing approach to that property, how you're going to present it to market. Can you give us a bit of a deep dive into some of that? And then as part of that as well, then Alex kind of bring you into the conversation, but let's just deal with the more straightforward stuff first, if that's all right.
Yeah, I think...
Dare I say it's straightforward?
No. So Alex is a big part of the beginning of it because people had seen the property, and eventually I did go and actually see the property. That was quite important to walk around it. And they asked for honest feedback. Like they just said, look, be brutally honest. And I said, you've got a house, but you don't have a home. And that, and they were just like, yeah, no, we get that. I said, beautifully finished. The extension that they'd done was absolutely perfect. But it just didn't. It felt completely empty, soulless. It was only part furnished.
Yeah.
So if you walk in, you go, okay, it's a big house. It was 7,000 square feet plus a cottage plus an annex and everything, so about 10,000 square feet in total. But to walk around it, it just felt like just another big space.
Yeah.
And so they agreed with it, and I said, let's get some quotes for staging, which
Yep.
very aware of. They've got friends who've staged houses before.
The house wasn't staged, it was just their stuff that was in it.
No, it was part staged.
Oh, right.
So when they designed the house
Yeah.
and all the fixtures and the finishings and everything,
Yeah.
they had a designer working with them.
Okay.
And so that designer brought in some furniture, like dining table and chairs, living room. And
a couple of sofas, wasn't
there's a couple of sofas, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a bed? Was there a bed?
I think the primary might have had a bed, but the other bedrooms didn't. And what we ended up doing was actually taking most of that out
Right.
and just putting it in with Alex's stuff.
Yeah.
Because to us, that stuff didn't reflect the property. It wasn't
Yeah.
quite high enough end. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, do you know, it's a really good point when you talk about the order of things there, because actually the staging probably comes pretty early on in that conversation, because you're not going to do any marketing without it being staged.
No, there was no point us showing the same house
No.
empty
No.
to people. And obviously, and the result when we get to that reflects the quality of what they did and the emotional side that the furniture, how it changed people's view of the property.
Yeah. So maybe at that point then, if I say that we're having a conversation about staging, and because I'd seen just online at this point the property,
Yeah.
and Alex, you and I knew each other from, we were just discussing this before we hit record.
Well, we must have known each other for 9, 10 years.
Yeah, it's just, there's something terrifying.
Time
about
flies.
that. Yeah, and I think especially COVID, because we were talking. So I said, when did we last see each other before this? So that must be 2-3 years ago. I was like, no, it would be longer than that, because I resigned from Finding Country in 2020, and we would have dealt with each other before then.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
So we'd have been working together from sort of maybe 2016, 17, 18, 19.
Yeah, which is kind of nuts. And then hadn't spoken at all. Like there wasn't even any WhatsApp saved in my phone or anything like that for at least then 5 years. And I gave you a call. I said, all right, Alex, how you doing? Have a chat with Simon.
Yeah.
Had a chat with Simon, and I think there was just the fit from, because Burbeck, I was associated with being around London, and then coincidentally, as it happens, you just relocated to the Midlands anyway.
Yeah, correct. I guess the association for Burbeck, and maybe from our previous relationship, is that we are a London-based home staging company.
Yeah.
I've spoken to Simon, we were speaking about this earlier. A lot of the work we do is central London, Mayfair, Kensington, Chelsea. But we do go across the whole country. We've been as far north as the Isle of Man and Sheffield. We do a lot in the Cotswolds now.
Yeah.
So it's never been about the location. It's more about the property itself and what the agent, broker, client are looking to achieve with the staging is probably the determining factor if we get involved from a staging perspective or not.
And maybe, I don't know if it was just sort of naively from my point of view, but I saw that Gainsborough was a particularly modern house. And I thought, well, that's got that kind of London-y penthouse type feel to it that would warrant something, and also at a price point as well, where, I don't know very much about furniture, to be honest, but I'm sure there are levels and leagues of furniture that you can stage a property with and buy and so on. I thought, well, this is probably a conversation for Alex and Burbeck. So put you guys together, you had a conversation. So you
made it happen, David.
Yeah, I'm the most important person here. I've done absolutely nothing. That's really funny, actually. So you guys had a conversation. Then what I'm interested in as well is about the what happens between you having a conversation and the furniture going in the house. Then how do you have that conversation with the vendor, and ballpark figures? Let's not give away too much here, but just for people listening to this, how much are the owners of this property spending on the staging of their house as it comes to market as well? Is an interesting
and I think that is an interesting point, because you say, how much do the owners spend? So we don't spend that money as the agents.
Yeah.
That is a conversation with the sellers to have with you almost, and to come to an agreement of a furniture sort of package.
Correct. So 99% of the time, the client's paying for the staging, the owner of the property. Clearly, it's quite a long process in terms of negotiating with the client. The higher the value of the property, the higher value of the staging. You know, for a metric, we're looking at about 1% of the property value to dress the house for 12 weeks, a 12-week contract. The client has to trust us a lot. You know, it's a significant amount of money to dress a property.
Yeah.
So we have to build up a very strong level of trust and confidence within them that they're spending the money and they're going to get the return that they're looking for. For us, that starts by the business that we've built, you know, being in business the best part of 10 years, the track record that we have, the data that we can show our clients in terms of the results that we've achieved for a whole range of clients all over the country, the case studies, the visual case studies, all of that helps produce a narrative and gets a client comfortable that what they're getting is, you know, a really premium product and premium service that's going to have an impact on the sale of their property.
And it is important because, like, you know, someone listening to this, they can pretty much work it out. As a £5 million home, there or thereabouts. 1% of that's a significant investment for them to make, isn't it? In something that is increasingly part of what we talk about in the industry that up until maybe 10 years ago was pretty niche, wasn't it? It was not on the scene as it is now. We were talking just a second ago, like, your business is growing because it's growing, but it's also growing because staging, styling of properties is becoming increasingly not the norm, but it's filtering in from the top of the market down to a degree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's something we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were saying, which I found interesting, is I'm going to mention it again. I got it. Selling Sunset. I've got to bring it in.
We'll finish it there. Thanks, guys.
It's literally not a podcast I've been on that I haven't mentioned Selling Sunset. But you said the more people are seeing that kind of level of staging and actually what they do in America, and they want to bring it over here. And they go, well, actually, we saw it on Selling Sunset. We looked up staging companies and you guys came up.
Yeah.
And so clients are coming direct to you off watching.
Yeah, so I mean,
that.
Behind the scenes on like our SEO and our Google ads, you know, you can see all the analytics behind it. It's a very different ball game now to what it was 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years ago, I'd walk into an estate agents to pitch our service, and they would verbatim say, "I do not see value in home staging." It was pushing water uphill. You know, the narrative is now kind of 180 on that, and I think there's a number of factors that have facilitated that. I mean, first and foremost, agencies changed. You know, agents are far more consultative these days. They need to demonstrate how they're adding value, the different services that they can bring. You know, agencies evolving, isn't it? In
Massively, and again, it has a lot of this is going to go back to what we discussed beforehand. Sellers are willing to spend money. They're not shy of spending money, especially at this price point, as long as there's value. They're not going to just throw away money. You know, the same with our fees. You know, we are considerably higher fees, but we also add higher value. So as long as net they take away more profit, that's a great investment.
It's a business transaction.
Same with these guys. You know, you spend 1% of that property value, as long as you're
what am I going to see from that?
That's a great investment.
But it is. Investment is the right word for it, because with an investment comes an element of risk, doesn't it? That you're going to put some money into something. If it was a no-brainer, there'd be nothing on the upside, because that's not how the world works. But it is investment with some risk attached. It might be that you do spend the money on the staging and the styling, for example, and it doesn't actually sell the property, but you can convey the value that it brings. That the likelihood is it will increase the value of the property when it does sell. That you make money off of that as an investment.
I can't stress this enough. I think we do about 180 stagings a year across London and the country.
Which kind of blew Simon and I's mind when you said that earlier, because in our heads we're kind of quite bespoke, unique, high end. So with that, we would have thought, it'd be bits and pieces here and there. And oh my God, you're doing that at scale.
and I think it's what's interesting to me is yes, I underestimate how many you do, but it's not because of the skill of what you have. It's just you're working in the premium market. And I guess in London, there is just a much higher quantity of higher sort of value properties.
Correct. So we have 68 live projects at the moment across the country, predominantly London and the home counties. The average property value for us is just north of 4 million. It's... Oh, sorry, I've lost my train of thought there.
That's all right. We were talking about the quantity of what you're doing.
Like how many you turn over. But I guess that's just because I'm thinking about how many we sell in a year, but then our transaction period is a lot longer. We're dealing with properties for a longer. You come in, you stage it, you move on to the next one. You can fit more into a week.
And also you get paid, Simon, this is once it's sold. whereas I guess you
Well,
pay,
upfront.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a slightly different transaction model as well. But anyway, let's carry on then. So speaking of which, so let's just talk about the seller's investment for a second there. So they spent there or thereabouts 1% of the property's value on staging and styling.
Yeah.
Simon, what are your fees? Ballpark figure. What's your sort of modus operandi for fees?
So any property we're selling is somewhere between 2 and 2.5%.
Okay, and just for clarity, that applies to this property as well.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So it's interesting from the seller's point of view. They've been on with another agent. We don't know what they were charging as fees, but wasn't selling anywhere. They've come on with you.
Yep.
They've effectively taken a price reduction at their marketing price when it comes to market,
Yep.
and they made the investment in the staging and styling. And then sort of the fun happens. Then we get into the marketing of how you present that property to market. So Simon, do you want to talk to us a bit about that? What in terms of what went well, and then also what you wouldn't do again? Because as part of us sitting down here today was a conversation you and I had. I was like, wow, that's so interesting that X, Y, and Z work particularly well, and A, B, and C that you would think would work really well actually didn't move the needle very much. So do you want to talk to us about your marketing strategy and how you go about that?
Yes, we're not shy, and it actually comes down to value. And any investment into marketing is my own personal money. This is not money from By Design, and it's not money from the sellers. They give an upfront contribution, and it is a sort of a contribution to get us going. It's a commitment to say, okay, we're going to put down just over £1,000. So that you don't come in, bring guys, and then you just walk away, kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's to say, right, you're invested in this as well as we are. So every penny I invest is a risk because we don't get paid until we sell.
Yeah.
This one was in the thousands of what we spent, but because it was such a show property, I don't mind saying it's the most expensive property I've sold, and so I wanted to throw everything at it. In terms of marketing strategy, I gave them a full breakdown of what we were going to do. It's going to be shown here on these portals. It's going to be shown globally on these portals. That's a big part of what we do, especially again at this price point. Going international is obviously really important. And then we're going to do all of these videos. We're going to get these photos. It's going to go on these social media platforms. These are direct mail letters. This is how many we're going to send out. Roughly at a price of about £3,000 just on letters. And again, direct mail is a very old-fashioned way to market, but it is one of my best strategies. When you think about how much stuff is online, you get lost in it. You are one of many posts about properties. You are one of many listings. The average number of letters that people get a week is 3.5. So if you get a letter through the post, you're going to open it, and it's going to catch your attention.
I remember Simon Ledbetter was talking about this, that the average person sees something like, I'll make the number up because it doesn't matter, it's just so big, something like 14,000 adverts per week, and most of those are online because that's where most people spend their time.
Wow.
Whereas, but actually, it's something in that magnitude. If you think about all the things you see when you're online, watching TV,
walking around,
you're bombarded by this stuff. It's astronomical when you actually think the amount that comes through your letterbox is not just single figures per day, it is like almost less than one per day. So you do pay attention to, sorry.
You do. And actually what I like to capture is the people that we're targeting. These are busy people. They run big businesses, they're abroad a lot, and they're not always checking Rightmove. As you go slightly lower into the market, people have more alerts set up, they've got more time to be flicking through listings. So we need to spread our marketing literally as far as we possibly can in as many different ways, different media forms, to grab their attention. Because if they don't see it on social media, or they don't see it on Rightmove, or they don't see it from this and that, maybe the letter gets them. Or if they don't see the letter because they're abroad for 6 months, maybe they see the social media ad. So for us, it's about literally casting that net to every possible place, and they might just pick up on one of them. Or if they don't, someone they know will and go, this house would be perfect for you. Send it across to them. And so we brought in our favourite team, Dream Home Films. So they did videography and photography. We did twilight photography as well, so we stayed till the sun went down and got all beautiful shots for that. We got to drive the Rolls-Royce Cullinan.
Did you drive it?
Yeah, but I had it for like 3 days.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't really drive it around town or anything, but yeah.
Just because this blew my mind, I don't buy Rolls-Royce very regularly. How much was that Rolls-Royce, just the car that you shot the video in?
Half a million. And he just gave me the keys. Yeah, £500,000 car. But
that's a pretty substantial house.
Good job he didn't ding it.
I know. But, no, there's a lot of pressure. Driving it. But with our marketing, we need to stand out. This cannot just be another property video.
Yeah.
You know, everything we do, we're always trying to better and better and better. And a big part of everybody will start to recognize it is we use cars in our videos.
Yeah.
It's not just a gimmick, and it's not just a nice way for me to drive nice cars, although it's quite fun. But it sets the lifestyle of that home.
Yeah.
You don't want to drive up in a Ford Mondeo and park it out the front, get out and give a nice intro.
Yeah.
The Rolls Royce was just like perfect for that home. It was big, grand, elegant, exactly like the house.
And you've done other properties as well. There was a very traditional property, I can't remember what it was listed, but it was a very quintessentially English home, and you hired a Morgan for it, which just matched the house perfectly. And there's one you sent me the other day that was really beautiful, but it was quite a luxurious modern home, and you had a Range Rover Vogue autobiography, a beautiful looking car as well, but matched the house so well.
It was in the countryside, and there's Range Rovers everywhere. So you kind of want to say, well, look, this is the lifestyle of this area. There's no point us bringing in a car like a red Ferrari, because you just don't get them in that area. It's it's got a villagey feel. People do have a lot of money in the area, and they do drive around in Range Rovers. So you've got to set the scene of this is the lifestyle.
Yep. So speaking of camera work, you also got an FPV drone pilot.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Go on.
No, I'm just counting how many different videographers we had on the day.
We'll go through them because they're quite interesting there. But like, first of all, can you explain what an FPV drone is? Because I'd Google it when you talked to me about it.
Yeah. So FPV is first person view.
Okay.
So essentially, what you're seeing in the video is a fly through. So as if you're almost like you're walking through the house.
So it's an internal drone video.
A little drone about this size literally flies through the whole of the property, circles around, goes into the next room, goes up the stairs, into the bedrooms. And it's more of a realistic view of what you would see if you walk around the house.
Yeah, okay.
We've never used them before. We've used drones and stuff for our aerial shots.
Yes.
We use handhelds for internal and external shots. But the FPV just gave it, there was a lot of like bifold doors, there was a lot of land, the rooms were big, big empty, big spaces, not empty spaces, but big spaces. And the drone just sort of highlighted that. So yeah, for just over £1,000, we brought in an FPV guy. He's done adverts for like Red Bull and done all kinds of different campaigns for big brands. And so it was quite an investment to bring him in, but I thought it was just going to give another element to.
So we talked about the direct mail, you do that again. Talked about the high caliber of videography, dream home, you do that again. Using the right kind of car to match property, you do that again.
FPV, I would not do again.
Yeah, tell me why.
It was a nice idea, and in America they do it quite a lot. And you get a lot of reels, and drone comes up the driveway, actually goes through the car and into the house, and out and about, and then it's like really sort of quite cinematic and quite well. It just didn't work for us. I don't know what. Maybe
what was it about it that didn't work?
It was a bit dry. I think it could have been chopped up and made into a much more engaging, shorter video. But the point of the FPV was to give someone almost a virtual tour. So if people were international, we could actually send that to them, and we could say, look, here's actually a full tour of the property, rather than me walking around with my camera and whatever. But because of the lens, it's got a much wider lens than the other stuff we use. It didn't work with the other shots we had, so we couldn't even use them. Like we couldn't chop it into other shots.
Oh, it'd look weird, yeah.
So you go from so this what would it be? Whatever the lens size was to theirs, and suddenly it's like extended, and it just looked a bit odd.
Does it change the perspective?
Yeah, completely. So you're just the thing is, I don't deal in media and cameras, but basically the frames, the lens size was much more cropped with our handhelds, but then he had a much wider lens.
So it looks like two different houses, basically.
And it just one looked just a bit sort of like fish-eyed, almost fish-eyed. So it just didn't work. So okay. It was an experiment. And I think done in the right way, with a bit more planning, maybe it could have worked. But
okay, that's
on
really
this case,
interesting.
yeah.
I mean, then maybe the last thing on this subject, but you were saying earlier how many cameras or different types of videography you had for this one property.
Yep.
And then the other one that springs to mind was your behind the scenes.
So we had FPV, we had our main videographer, we had a behind the scenes videographer who basically was just filming what we were doing.
Yeah.
That was just additional content for social media, so that people could see behind the scenes what we do, what goes into selling a house like this. Sort of followed me around.
Yeah.
Sort of filmed me chatting to Alex on site and his guys and them setting up. So yeah, that was just sort of a behind the scenes kind of point of view. And then we had you guys as well. So we actually invited some other people to come and sort of see the property, and they were filming as well. So we had cameras everywhere.
I remember at one point Alex had this sort of weird Inception level of cameras going on where there was Simon in front of the professional videographers, then you had the behind the
camera
scenes
on a
guy,
camera
and
on
then
a
there was
camera
me
on a camera.
filming 3 or 4 layers of cameras. It's going to be ridiculous. Would you do it again?
Yes, not. I would do the behind the scenes. It didn't quite work with the guy we used. The content didn't really capture what I was hoping for.
Okay.
He is an incredible videographer, but what he was trying to produce was a bit too polished. It wasn't kind of fly on the wall, which is what we were looking for. So yes, I would capture that kind of stuff again, because I think it's really important. What we do on these shooting days is literally from 8, 9 o'clock in the morning to like 10 o'clock at night. It can be a full day, and a lot goes into it. And there are mistakes, and there's a lot of moving around, and there's a lot of moving pieces to get it done in time. And people don't see that.
So interesting that he was too polished.
It was too polished. So yeah, he was capturing in just in a way that he thought worked.
Yeah.
Because he works at such a high end, he didn't want to.
Almost doesn't know how to be.
He didn't know how to be fly on the wall. Whereas I think if I got a friend with a camera phone to film it, it actually would have captured more of what we were doing.
Yeah, kind of the grit, not gritty, but
he was trying to get shots, and we didn't really need that for that. It was more
too artistic.
It was way too It was too refined. I just needed someone literally just to film it, or just put it on a tripod.
Yeah, and just
watch it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, the time lapse it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing that obviously springs to mind, because it's sat in front of us as well, is from a marketing perspective, is brochures.
Yes.
Which is a particularly interesting subject because the world is increasingly digital, increasingly social, increasingly, and the rate of change in the industry, and every industry is going exponentially quicker. And people are worried about their views on TikTok and so on. And the concept of brochures, in one perspective, could seem alien in this day and age, whereas if you think about what brochures were back in the day, it was to hand to someone so they could see a property to decide whether they wanted to view it.
Yep.
Obviously now everyone can view every property all the time.
Yep.
So you produced brochures.
Yep.
It almost seems bad calling them brochures, but brochures for Gainsborough House, the property that we're talking about here.
Yep.
But can you talk to us about those brochures, what you did differently, and what and then at the end of that, I suppose, again, whether you do them again or not.
I would do them again for the right property at the level of what we did.
So talk to us about the level of what you did.
Level of what we did. So these are essentially coffee table books. If you think of very high-end sort of design books and interior books and stuff, they're hard back, they're kind of cloth lined, they're perfect bound. You know, it's got black embossing as well. We've got embossing on the back. Like, it's GF Smith paper, which is a much more premium paper. And it's very tactile.
How many pages in it?
I think there's about 40 pages in this one. It's not page numbered, but I think there's about 40.
Wow,
but it's essentially a picture book. It is just a picture book. There's not big descriptions about the rooms, and there's no
that's quite
titles.
interesting as well.
It is just a showcase of the beautiful photography. But at the front, you've got a nice description about the home, which is online anyway, and then you've got a little QR code, just really subtle, to watch the video.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Yeah.
But when somebody walks into the home and you go, oh, by the way, there's the brochure for the home, and they hold that, and they try and give it back to you as well. They go, oh, thank you very much, thinking that that's just one piece that I get to keep.
This is something I was going to say, that it would be almost impossible for someone to throw that in the bin.
That's the plan. So
Like, you can't bin that. I know that's a really weird thing to say, but I'm trying to get the message across people that are listening to this rather than watching.
Yeah.
Imagine it's like someone's wedding album. They'd be like putting your
Yes.
wedding album in the bin. It's going to go down very badly. But is that feeling of you just couldn't possibly put something that was that high quality?
No,
Well, it has a place in any home, doesn't it? If you take it away with you,
You could have put it on a bookshelf.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, what am I doing with this?
That's kind of it. You just want to like
bookshelf.
put it away. I think with most of the brochures people get, they're kind of printed on a Xerox printer, or they're just so floppy. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, and
And
some,
they're binnable. Like I know that's a weird way to look at it, but they are very binnable.
They're very binnable.
recyclable.
Yeah, recyclable.
Recyclable.
Thank you. Yes.
The recycling
Of course.
bin. So these books, yes, I would do it again. These cost £56 a book per brochure, and then we got the same books printed but a slightly lower spec because we wanted to post them out to the local football clubs like Aston Villa, who were literally just around the corner. Their training ground was 18 minutes from the property. Send them out to like the Belfry, the health club. Send them out to potential buyers who we felt should be able to see a brochure before they came to the property, and also just have some. So we were keeping these for very high net worth individuals who we had quite a few come through the door. We knew their finances before they came, so I was quite selective about who I gave it to. And we only had 5 printed. All of them were given out. They got a lot of interest from people. People kept sort of touching them and flicking through them, and sort of like held them like protective. And that was exactly what it was about.
Yeah.
I want somebody in 6 months' time to see that on their shelf, or a year's time, and go, oh yeah. And then sort of give us a call and go, oh yeah, I've still got that book from Gainsborough.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that's going to outlast that transaction by quite some way.
And it will outlast a digital brochure, because that'll get lost. Or get just thrown away, or like bin, recycle, whatever. But.
And the thing I took from all that is it's crazy that in this day and age, you would think that the person trailing you doing behind the scenes content for social media would be the thing that worked, and creating brochures would be the thing that didn't.
The direct mail and the brochures were the things that brought in the interest.
Madness,
it's the print because people aren't used to it anymore.
Yeah.
And there is something, even viewing a property online and viewing it in person are two very different experiences. People see these properties online and they go, okay, it's not quite for me. And then they walk in and they go, oh, okay, it feels like this is the home we got to live in.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so anything else to say on the marketing of the property? Have we covered most of it?
Yeah, I mean, it did go on social media. So it went across all the main platforms on social media. There was paid Facebook advertising. So it went everywhere. Actually, yes, YouTube. So we don't pay for YouTube. We don't pay to have it promoted or on YouTube. But Gainsborough, we did 2 videos. We did a sort of 3.5 and 4 minute video, which was a snapshot of the property. And we did a much longer kind of like 12-minute video. Both of them are above 30,000 views on Facebook. On YouTube, sorry.
Wow.
Completely organic. Probably most of them watched by me, just watching it back.
refresh.
But yeah, it's done incredibly well, and I think because it comes into that luxury home sector. And going back to your podcast, it's property porn star, like it's property porn.
Yeah.
And people just want to look around these big fancy homes.
Yeah.
And had we filmed and photographed this home empty, it wouldn't have had the same impact.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Okay, so actually that is an important point as well, because you can have the property there that can look as good as it might do, but unless it's actually. What was it someone was saying the other day, is that you have a property properties to live in, there's a property to sell. And the way that those two are presented are two completely different things. And that's why you have show homes that you could ever possibly even functionally live in, but they are presented to sell, right?
Yep.
And I guess that's where, Alex, you're coming this from how we actually going to make this house that not to live in, but to sell.
I think there's a combination of both. You obviously want to show the very best aspects of the property, but you need to create an interior that the buyer can see themselves living in, right? It's like what we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
In many respects, one of my favourite examples of property that we've dressed or staged was one where it'd been on the market for 5 months and it hadn't had that much interest, and we staged it. And after we staged it, the agent brought round somebody who'd already seen it vacant.
Wow.
And then they ended up buying it because they could actually visualize themselves and their family living in the house.
Yeah.
They already had the buyer. The buyer just couldn't see themselves in the property until we dressed it. So
I would be that person. I've got no imagination with the stuff whatsoever, and I couldn't even imagine. Oh, where would the bed go in this bedroom? Like, it'd be completely lost on me.
Can we fit a bed in this bedroom?
Yeah.
Can you fit a super king or king or how many sofas can you fit in this room?
I think that is also, it's really important. Scale.
Yeah. And Gainsborough needed scale.
It needed scale
Yeah.
because you can look at a room and go, would the bed fit or would the bed be lost? Or like, do we need to get different
But
furniture?
the bedside tables need to be big. Everything needs to be.
They were enormous.
Everything
Your
the coffee
side
tables need
lamps
to be
were
big.
huge.
The lamps need to be big.
Yeah.
You know, what did we put? We had gyms. We had Pilates machines. We had a pool table. We had.
Oh, annex was dressed with sofa, like almost like a little cinema
grand
space.
piano.
Yeah.
These are all the things you put in the property to dress it. All the Pilates machines, weights, grand pianos.
Yeah.
2 dining areas.
Offices, the works.
The office, the desk.
Yeah, you could have, it was dressed for sale, obviously, but you could have gone in, had a workout, played on the piano, played pool.
It's a good point.
A lot of people sat and played the piano when they came to view it.
Yeah,
they don't play piano, but they're just like.
I did when I was there. When I was there with you filming. Yeah, sat down in it. Yeah, but that's a really interesting point, though. So maybe it's not quite as black and white as that. You have dress it for sale and dress it to live in. You could live.
Well, I think what the USP for us and what we try and achieve with every dressing is to make them feel unique. Right? There's no value for my clients if every property we stage looks the same as the last one. Like, we figured this out very early on in the company. You know, we dress a property on the asset and demographic of buyer we think we're looking for. And I can't stress it enough. I think it's a real collaboration between us and the agent.
Yes.
You know, you can make a property look as good as possible, but if the agent broker isn't up to it, it's not going to make that much of a difference, and vice versa. You can have an exceptional agent, but if the property's not looking as good as it should, the results not going to be the same. So for me, it's a real collaboration. You know, not just working with the buyers, but working with Simon to understand what Simon's looking to achieve out of this and how he wants it to look. So we can make it feel unique, so it doesn't look like just another staged, dressed house.
Yeah.
But because of the value of this property and where it is in this sort of exclusive estate, it actually did need to feel more of like a London house. And that is why when you gave us Alex's number, you know, it was finding out what you did, getting more case studies off you and going, that fits basically the market. These case studies are what we need to put into this house.
Yeah.
And then obviously you guys came, you did a recce of the house and went, okay, we can visualize what we need to put in here.
Yeah, we must have come up maybe 2 or 3 times before the installation, right, to site measurements, discussions, you know, really prepping for the actual installation itself and the design of the scheme to make sure like every detail's taken care of and covered.
And what you said, David, about dressing it to live in, dressing it to sell, the people who bought the property had seen the house before when it was on the market, not dressed.
Really?
And then they bought it when it was dressed.
So the psychological
Exactly the
impact.
But you say dressed to sell, they bought all the furniture as well.
Okay, so this is really
so they
interesting
bought it to live in based on how we dressed it to sell.
Wow. Okay, cool. So let's move into that kind of part of the conversation then. So to kind of bookend the marketing chapter of this, and I know we've dwelt on that a bit, but I think it's important to do because it's what are you going to do differently to another agent? And that's one big part of it is how you would market the house. So, okay, so the marketing is there, property staged, you've thrown the kitchen sink in it in terms of online, offline, photography, videography. So then it comes to selling the house then. So who bought the house?
So we put out a big campaign, it went global, and someone within 7 miles bought the house. So it literally went to the other side of the world. Yeah. And someone around the corner
I'm
went,
back again.
I'll have it.
Sutton Coldfield.
So if I just door knocked, I could have saved a lot of money. But so someone local. Within that area, a lot of people know all the properties. They know the people who live in them. They know when they're coming up on the market and stuff.
But still, so that even though they know that, and did you say they'd already seen?
They'd walked around it. They'd walked around it and they'd actually spoken to the builders who were working on it, and they were asking them what they were doing, and they'd seen it undressed, and they said, no, it doesn't feel like a home for us. When they walked around it and they got this beautiful brochure and they got to meet me, we walked around it and I found out what is it they wanted from a house.
Yeah.
And this house didn't tick that box. Like it it gave them the square footage that they wanted, but it also actually gave them the land to allow them to build even more. And so actually the conversations ended up being with myself and the builder and them and the stage and you guys about how you could work with them after this, about, okay, this is a great base for you to build what you now need to, what you could have.
So I mean, that is astonishing. And I guess that's another exactly the same thing for you, Alex. When you said it was on the market for 5 months, with same thing there with Gainsborough.
5 months,
yeah. Buyers have seen it, didn't like it, had it staged, presented, marketed properly, bought it.
Psychology behind that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's me. Like, no imagination for this stuff. Can't see it.
It's like we were talking about earlier. Like an undressed property, it can just feel so cold. You know, even the sound travels differently in a room that doesn't have any soft fabrics. A rug. You know, the light. If there's not furniture, if there's not different
smells
textures
as well. I viewed a property that I was going to buy and walked around there, and in every room, the lady, she was into this. There's a word for it, aroma something. But anyway, she'd put different sort of scents or those little incense and stuff like that in each room. And I remember the smell of that house was so nice. It was so attractive. It was
so
gorgeous.
Again, it's like we use a lot of scented oils and diffusers.
They work so well. It feels like you're going into a very high-end hotel or something. Like that's the smell, or a spa or something when you go into certain like bathrooms. And again, it tricks the mind into going, oh, this is a nice place. This is luxury. It doesn't smell like cats or dogs or children. Like,
it's like by association.
No, absolutely.
The other thing you say about sound is really interesting. So, like, I was talking to is just a friend of mine, and this is on the opposite complete end of the spectrum of what you're talking about here. But I've got a home office, and I converted my garage into an office, and it was really echoey. And I got those acoustic panels, whatever they're called, with the felt behind it. And my mate said to me, he goes, "I bet it feels cozier in there now because of the sound." I was like, "Yeah, it does. It doesn't echo, and somehow even the temperature and everything can be the same. But because the sound has been deadened, it somehow feels cozy now. It's such a peculiar thing."
And Gainsborough would echo.
Yeah, because you had hard flooring, didn't you, throughout the lower ground, a lot of wood, a lot of stone. There wasn't any
soft furnishings.
It's just unwelcoming, isn't it?
It was.
That's super interesting. Okay, so buy around the corner. Bought it after they'd seen it looking the way it was.
Yeah.
What do they pay for it? What did it go for? So just to remind listeners, it was on the market for 5.5, another agent.
5.5 with another agent. We sold it for 5.6.
Hey.
We had it on the market at offers over 5.
Yeah.
Now the theory behind putting it on at offers over 5 is if you look at Rightmove brackets, it goes from 5 and then 7.5.
Yeah.
We still wanted to get people who were going to look up to 5. And people who were looking from 5 to 7.5. We wanted 2 brackets. By being on at 5.5, you only had 1.
Yeah.
So even if it wasn't right for someone looking up to 5, they may know someone who would be spending more than that. So again, it is purely just to market to the biggest possible audience.
Yeah.
If you think of any kind of auction, right, we're starting at 100,000, you know, a property could go for $1 million, or a luxury car or a vintage car could go for $1 million.
Yeah.
This is just a starting point. Now, when people come around the property, I will give them comparables and we'll talk about, you know, values and stuff, and we'll say, look, it's expected to reach somewhere in the region of 5.5, could even reach 6, could even reach 7, like depending on the right buyer.
Yeah.
So we have that conversation. It's not our asking price is 5. What would you offer?
Yeah.
You know, so the 5 is purely just a starting point.
Yes, but it's from a pricing strategy. Everything you're saying there about the way that, say, Rightmove works is interesting, but also from a psychological perspective and that whole strategic getting people round rather than pricing it too high and end up with nobody around there and then batting it down. Okay, so something else that you said to me that I hadn't quite appreciated in this as well was how actually quickly this had happened. And I came to the appointment with you where, or maybe one of them at least, where the guys from Dream Home were there, were doing the videography and the filming and so on. And then we'd spoken about this property a lot. And then just for listeners' sake in this, to clarify, like, so Simon is the license holder for Biodesign in Warwickshire and Sutton Coldfield, but the way that our business model works is that we don't take any of Simon's commission. It doesn't work like that. He pays a low flat fixed license fee. So the reason I'm saying that is that we don't see any of the cut of this. This is purely for you. having said that, I felt like I was there with you as this was going along. We probably spoke, if it wasn't every day, it felt like every other day at one point. As this was going up and down and the emotional roller coaster that you were on. And I was, funnily enough, I was outside here when you called me to say that it had gone through. I was literally walking to here because I was filming some content here. And I really, really remember it. And what an amazing achievement that was to get it over the line. But the thing that struck me with all of that was it felt like it was much longer than it actually was, probably because of the emotional strain it put on you.
It did.
And how long did it take then in the end? What was it from start to finish?
From date we listed it to the date we completed was 14 weeks.
14 weeks.
So we launched it and then we showed it for the first time as an open house or by appointments 2 weeks later. And then 4 weeks after that, we were under offer.
Yeah.
And then 8 weeks later, we completed.
It's pretty quick.
It's below the UK average.
When you said the UK average, you said it was 25 weeks when we
24, 25, something, 25, yeah.
And then it reminds me of a conversation you and I had where I can't remember the context of it. And I think that you were probably in one of the down phases or the up phases of this emotional roller coaster. And I sort of said, sometimes these things at the top end can be super difficult. You're like, no, it's not the case. Like I've had sales at 300 grand that've been harder than this.
So at the same time that this was going through, I had a £350,000 house which I'd taken on for an old client of mine just to sort of help them out, and that was a headache. That was much harder and much longer than this. For not much of a fee, really.
I was going to say, like, if you actually...
But it was more of a favour to them because I'd worked with them in the past. And I said, we'll take it on this. I think with this, it comes back down to the financial investment that I put into it is my own money.
Yeah.
And the time that I'm spending on this, I'm not spending on other properties that I could be maybe going out to, speaking to, listing, whatever. So I was selling and marketing and showing during this one going through, obviously, but there was a huge amount, like I said, it was thousands of pounds of my own money going in, and I've got a family and 2 kids, and if that doesn't go through and it all, they then walk away and go, no, we're done, nice try.
Yeah.
I don't get a penny. So really had to make it work.
You're out of pocket.
Oh, well, that, yeah.
You not get a penny, you're actually out of pocket.
Oh, no, out of pocket by thousands of pounds with nothing to show for it. Yeah.
And then even psychologically as well, it was, I was talking to James, who runs By Design in South Devon. He had one that went through recently about 4. A tiddler in comparison then, but still £4 million. And as that was going through, just the amount of his headspace that was taking up, it was almost then and I suppose it's on the negative side of it, it's because there is so much at stake there. That roller coaster is highs and lows. He was sort of obviously relieved it had gone through, happy days, big payday, but also just from now my brain's capacity suddenly feels like it's increased again because I don't have this one humongous deal.
It did. I'm actually very, very level-headed. So there is a roller coaster going through, but actually the main roller coaster for me was not my own emotions. It was my partner Millie. She's going through it as well. And she is literally hearing everything that's going on. It's like, oh, this happened today. That's amazing. Oh, this happened today. Oh, that's terrible. Is this going to fall through? Is this about to complete? No, it's not. What's happened? Okay, so for
just ask
me,
a funny question on that. This is a funny question. How much do you tell her, and how much do you not want to tell her stuff because like you say, you're quite level-headed about this, and I know you're not just saying that for camera. Like you genuinely are. You are very level-headed. You're much better than me. I'm all over the shop. How much are you sort of? I'm not gonna put her through this because she doesn't necessarily need to. While it's the ups and downs of it, or do you share everything?
She doesn't know details, so I don't talk about personal client details. She knows what's going on, and she does know sort of the sellers' names and stuff, because I talk about them, and that's not a problem. But she doesn't know the details. But if I say, this was meant to happen today, oh, did it happen? No, it didn't. Okay, why didn't it happen? It's like, something came up. Like I keep it fairly generic. Just because the people we're dealing with, this is a very private sale for them. She's a solicitor herself, so she knows about confidentiality and all of that. So she doesn't tell me details of her work, and I don't tell her details of that. But she does go on the journey with me. And because it was a big fee, and it's a big sale, and there was a lot off the back of this that could happen. There was a lot of pressure, and because a lot of my time was spent on it. I mean, I was out at the property super early in the morning some days. I was on the phone every single day to the sellers. I was either on WhatsApp or texting or phoning. I think it probably is every single day. 10 o'clock at night a lot of the time. And some of that is actually counselling. They're just like, why is this not happening? You know, what's going on here? And it's like, don't worry, like, let me speak to them in the morning, or I've done, And a lot of it is I'm almost being shouted at for not rushing through something that's out of my control. But as soon as they see that it's not our issue and we can't control it until maybe the next day, then it's fine. But unfortunately, Millie can see that, okay, something's happened today. What's going on? I was like,
that's a good point, actually.
Something didn't really happen that should have happened, and it's fine. And
you can say what you want, but if your face is like thunder.
It's like, how did you know? She goes, because that whole bottle of wine's disappeared. It's like, but it's like, no, it's fine.
Oh man, that's really funny.
But she goes through a journey. She just doesn't know certain details.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, so I mean, I feel like I'm glossing over something there, but like, you get the buyers in, get it sold, get it through, get it over the line. And what I was going to move on to ask you about was sort of, well, actually, maybe before I do, and talk about the things that have come off the back of it as well, because that's interesting in itself, is coming back to you, Alex, from the furniture's point of view as well. So it's an interesting conversation to have there, because there's the staging and styling element, i.e. a staging and styling, there's the artistic element of it, of what's going to happen to the house. And then there is a straightforward, say straightforward, it sounds like an absolute nightmare, but a very straightforward thing of completely furnishing a house for a very short period of time.
In 2 days.
But there is in 2 days, really straightforward. A furniture rental there for a fixed period of time. But then, am I right in thinking that almost because the buyers loved the way the house looked, that they bought the house, they ended up buying the furniture as well?
Yeah, correct. That's what we want to try and achieve.
Is that kind of the perfect position for you and your business?
I think it shows we've done a good job. We've done our job right.
It's kind of the best seal of approval, I guess, you can get. That someone goes, actually, I want to.
Yeah, this all works. We love it. Can we just tell them
as
that?
is?
Can we just tell them suitcase and
that's
toothbrush?
how we sold it. Because again, going back to the people who were looking around and the people who are potentially buying it, they are so busy. They don't want to go off sourcing furniture. Like they literally want to move in and just crack on with their business and their family, and they don't want to go sourcing beds and everything. A lot of these beds could take 6 to 12 months just to order.
Sofas bespoke, made to order. A
lot, specialist
lead
fabrics
times,
and stuff
supply
like that.
chains.
And actually, that is something again that we were just talking about before we press record. Is that some of the furniture you had there isn't any, you can't buy it. It's not. I could turn up.
Exactly. So it's made no.
Did you just redress IKEA furniture?
IKEA. Just reconfigured it.
So you can't get it in that floral print. It's a marm bed.
A lot of the furniture that we use is made especially for us. So it's unique to Burbeck. It helps us create really bespoke looks across all the properties we dress. So gives it a level of exclusivity, makes it feel really bespoke.
There's something very cool about that. And Simon, you were saying as well when you were talking to the purchasers about it, they really liked the concept that this was unavailable anywhere else because it was literally made for Burbeck then.
And there were pieces, which I don't know if it's still the case, but I was like, this has never been seen anywhere else. Like, I think a couple of pieces were the first out.
It could have been. Yeah, if it was new to us and it's the first time we're using it again,
I think there was a bed that had never been seen before, headboards and stuff. And it's like, this is in no other house. This is exclusively at the moment for you. But going back to the collaboration, obviously you collaborated with us to understand the potential buyer for it. The collaboration then continued because I had a long conversation with these guys about saying, okay, this is not perfect for you now. I'm going to put you in touch with Burbeck afterwards. You do a full consultation on what's here. And they've actually instructed them to change out some of the furniture, but also upgrade some of it.
Oh, wow.
So you guys have got business off the back of it. And they want to source curtains and
all the window treatments,
all the window treatments. So yeah, it just keeps continuing. That these guys, they liked obviously what you did and the quality, and that was.
Well, that's the partnership coming into play again, isn't it? You being able to trust us to not only help your sellers, but help your buyers and
definitely.
deliver.
But it's a selling feature for us.
Yeah.
It's to say, you don't just get it as it is, or trying to sell. Oh yeah, this is all stage furniture, but you can't have any of it. It's you can live. This is yours.
Yeah.
And furthermore, you can then have a consultation to make it even more personalized to you.
Yes.
And and we can literally set you up from day one with these guys. And they were like, okay.
I was talking to somebody earlier about estate agency, and there's like, okay, if you sort of squint your eyes, estate agency is estate agency. But if you're selling 2 up, 2 down on a terrace street at 1% fees or less than 1% fees in a corporate, whatever. I'm not trying to belittle that, but that's estate agency. And then just to try and listen back to the last 2 or 3 minutes of conversation that we've just had, like that seems like it's a completely different industry of estate agency to what
it's more consultation. And I said it to Simon Gates when I spoke to him on his podcast. My most important question when I show you the house is, what are you looking for? What's important to you? That's like straight away, because I need to know what you need, and then I can tailor that house to you.
Yeah.
If we walk into a dining room, or a good example is a playroom, I go, oh, so this is the playroom. Now you might not have kids, and you may not be able to have kids, so that's a bit of a sore point.
Yeah.
It's more, this has been dressed as a kid's room. What would you use it for?
Yeah.
And again, it's trying to get them to picture themselves there.
Yes.
And they go, oh, well, actually, I've got this would be great for an office for me. I do, I do client consultations and stuff. It's big enough space, could have 2 sofas. Suddenly, they start to picture themselves in the house.
Yes.
And that's part of how we separate ourselves from estate agents. It's it's actually having a really meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
Some of these viewings can last 2 hours.
Yeah.
We're walking around and we're going, okay, that 3-car garage isn't big enough, so why don't we build a 12-car garage? It's
which isn't an exaggeration. That's
actually what's happening. That's actually what's happening. Yeah.
So okay, that is incredibly interesting. And so we get to the end of that transaction, and then coming to the end of sort of my questions, I guess, for you guys is so on from there, Alex, from your point of view, you've had that onward consultation with the current owners of that property there, which is amazing. And then Simon, off the back of the Gainsborough house deal that you successfully got over the line, you've tell me about the things that have come off the back of that, the opportunities that have come your way.
So off the back of that, I've off market found the sellers of Gainsborough another house.
Yeah.
I've got 4 valuations in the local area of all properties are above 3 million.
Yeah.
I've actually got people asking about who you guys are, so there may be more business there.
Great.
So they've obviously picked up on it, word is just getting around.
Yeah.
And people have seen it.
Yeah.
A lot of people are actually just WhatsApping me.
That sounds like a new word you've just made.
What's happening? It kind of is. There we go. Hashtag what's happening. So they're WhatsApping me to see what's happened with it, because people have been following the journey almost.
Yeah.
Quite a short journey, but
it's quite a prominent house in the area as well. So people will be genuinely curious as to the result.
And I think because of the marketing, everybody has seen it.
Yes.
I mean, so the house that I found the sellers of Gainsborough, it's in an area I don't deal in, but they have been following lots of different properties we've been selling. They've seen the videos, they've seen the marketing everywhere. Yeah. They don't know who we are as by design. Yeah. And they signed us up and said, what. And
I know it's a cliche thing to say, but like that's, when it comes to the investment in the marketing of the property, it is marketing the property, and the intended outcome is for that to sell the house, or at least find the people that will buy it. Yeah. But it's as much about marketing yourself.
It is. I mean, when we send out letters saying this house has just come on the market, little QR codes and open house on this date, that's me marketing myself. There's a picture of me, there's all my contact details and everything. So that is marketing me. It is marketing the house at the same time, but it's my investment. Yeah. So, I want to get some kind of return on that. Yeah. And then when the house has gone through, more letters go out to a similar radius saying this house is now sold. Yeah. And people can see when that first one came in to the last one coming in. Yeah. And they go, oh, hang on a minute.
They know what they're talking about.
Hang on a minute, that house didn't sell before. How did you do it? Yeah. What price did you get? Now, interestingly, I have been told that behind our backs, a lot of agents were saying that house should never go for anything over 5. They've been telling homeowners in the area that they're never going to get over 5. And so that's why homeowners are now calling us out to go, how did you get 5.6?
Yeah. Well, they should speak to you and find out, shouldn't they?
Hopefully we've already agreed a new listing yesterday in the area, and hopefully a few more. So.
Awesome. Is there anything in this story, any question that I've not asked about it that I should do that's relevant, that's interesting, that is worth talking about? I feel like we've gone in kind of chronological order with it, but is there some part of this that I've missed out or I've skipped over or not done justice to that's worth sharing with the people that are listening to this?
Can you think of anything?
For me, what separates us is marketing. It's not the photography and it's not the videography, even though they are at an extremely high level, even compared to people who are doing high-end photography and videography. It is just the marketing and it's the reach.
Yeah.
It's not even the quality of the marketing. I mean, a letter with a photo and a little bit of a description is not great. It's not the most unusual piece of marketing ever. But it hits people and it gets to people and it gets in front of them. And I mean, I've now got a good contact at Aston Villa Football Club. So again, going forward, I've now built a relationship with someone at Aston Villa. Yeah. Now they have just signed Marcus Rashford as a player, and he is looking to buy in that area. Yeah. So for me, that just opens doors to then start talking to the football clubs and doing stuff that way.
Yeah.
But it really comes out, and I've sort of said the analogy. If you imagine sort of like you're fishing, and all the other agents are sort of fishing, looking for the best buyer. We're just fishing in more pools than they are. Yeah. And our bait is much better.
Yeah.
That's all it analogy. Is. Like we are just like if the best buyer, the biggest fish is in a pool over there, but everyone else is only fishing over here, but one of our letters hit over there.
Yep.
That's how we're going to find them.
Yeah.
And these guys have no chance of finding them.
That's right.
And that's the difference.
Yeah. The extra mile.
And the extra pound spent as well, because for me, again, even like the sellers, they only want to invest where they see value. Same as me. I don't want to chuck 15 grand, 10 grand at a marketing strategy if I'm not going to get something in return.
Yeah.
So I still have to see return on that as well. Yeah. So I will spend 30 grand if I can see that I'm going to reach the right people.
Yes.
And it's going to give me a return that I need. So I think that's the difference. There's no ceiling level of what we'll spend on a property as long as it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no point bringing in a helicopter if it's not going to add anything to the house.
No, that's it. Come back to something we said earlier, is the return on the investment that you're making in the marketing, that the vendor's making in the staging and styling of the house as well. Yeah. There's got to be a sensible business case for that from everyone's point of view, and the owners as well are looking at it from I know it's their home most of the time, but there is a business case, isn't it? It's what's the net profit that I'm going to get out of this house? What do I need to do to maximise that?
And I think one of the most important things is collaboration. So I'm collaborating with the sellers and with the stagers and the videographers and just anyone else that can help sell this property. And it is just pure collaboration. I am more than happy to send it out to other agencies and collaborate with them and say, look, if you find us a buyer, we'll give you a fee. And we did that, actually. That was something we didn't really mention. Put it out to certain agencies and said, if you find us the right buyer, we'll pay you a percentage of the fee. Because we can offer, we can get fees high enough to have that. To facilitate that.
Yeah.
I think if you're charging a very low fee,
How did that go? Did anyone come through with anyone, or?
No, nothing, no.
Wow.
No. But that was fine. We found the right buyer, and we won't do that straight away. So, it was more just a conversation with a couple, just saying, we've done the open house. If nothing comes off the back of it, and you've got someone, I don't want to give it to other agents straight away if we haven't even tested what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it was more just of a friendly,
but it's
let's
funny,
collaborate.
It's like an avenue that you can't even explore unless you're charging the right fee to the vendor.
So I think that's exactly it. And also, if you're charging 1% and you've got offices and you've got staff and you've got overheads, once you've taken out your own salary, where's the money for marketing? You're not going to take it out of your pocket.
Exactly.
If you've got a fee higher than 2%, plus it's your own business,
Yeah.
and it's your own interest to invest whatever money,
Yeah.
then the sky's the limit to what can be invested.
Yeah.
And if it means spending money in national newspapers or bringing in something ridiculous like a helicopter, if you've got the perfect property, then
I can help with that.
It's a bit.
well, there we go. If we can borrow yours,
Oh yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I feel like you two are doing much better at this deal than I am.
you can come take pictures of it.
On my iPhone. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, cool. So we'll end it there, but just to say congratulations to you both. I think it's an awesome case study. It's a case study in collaboration, first of all, then it's a case study in what can be done with the right companies and people working together. And the end result for the seller and for the buyer and for both your businesses is awesome. And it's also not that it's, that result didn't come around, catch myself out there, I was going to say by chance, it came through. I was going to say it comes by design, but it actually does. That was a carefully curated plan, and it was a strategy that was executed and got the right result. And once you have that strategy, you can deploy that again and again and again for houses, tailoring it to each one, but it works. And you achieved a price there that other agents said would never happen.
Kudos
to you, it's fantastic.
So we've set a record in the area now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First property in the area and set a record.
So were the sellers happy?
No, they're pretty annoyed about it, I think.
So no, they
want the money back.
They haven't come back from Dubai yet. Yes, the sellers are very, very happy, especially as we have now gone on to find them another property, and also we've actually got future projects coming up, and actually you are involved in that.
Did you know that?
So there is more work with them going forward. So yeah.
Good.
It ended up being like the perfect result.
Yeah, it was a perfect result. And I guess that is why we decided to make this as a bit of a weird one-off special episode of the podcast, which is a case study. But I hope that people that are listening to this can appreciate why we've done that, because it is an exceptional story. It is an exceptional circumstance. And thank you both for being so candid and talking about what you've done and also what's worked, what hasn't worked, and the way you go about doing it. I think that's super helpful for people that are either in that market or looking to be in that market. Needless to say, if anybody wants to learn more about Burbeck, they can reach out to you. Alex, what platform are you on the most? Where should they find you?
Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, all Burbeck Interiors.
Okay.
And
go from there. And Simon, where can people talk to you?
Mainly Instagram as well, LinkedIn, and it's simon.cowie.uk. Pretty much everywhere.
And a cheeky plug on your behalf, Simon, as well, is that you are looking to expand your business and grow your team of agents, especially now you're doing more and more, getting busier with properties like this and results like this and fees like this. So if you're someone who's listening to this, in what kind of areas should they?
So we're looking for Warwickshire, Worcestershire and Birmingham.
Okay, so if you're an agent in those areas and you're good and you want to do something like this, then look up Simon on socials and have a conversation with him. It could be the best conversation you ever have. Genuinely. Brilliant. Okay, gents, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of Property Porn Stars, and we'll catch you in the next episode.